The alarm rang loud in the small control room. Do-hyun looked up from his coffee and stared at the screen. Something was wrong. The numbers were jumping all over the place. He worked alone at this mining station in the mountains, and nothing like this had ever happened before. He pressed buttons and checked the readings again. There was something big coming down from the sky. Very big. The energy reading was higher than anything he had seen in his 3 years working here. His heart started beating fast. This was not a normal ship. This was not human technology. Do-hyun grabbed his coat and ran outside. The cold mountain air hit his face. It was getting dark and the stars were starting to show. Then he saw it. A bright light was falling from the sky, getting bigger and bigger. It was coming straight toward the mountain. The crash was loud. The ground shook under his feet. He almost fell down. The sound echoed through the mountains for several seconds. Then everything went quiet. Too quiet. Do-hyun stood there breathing hard, watching smoke rise from the mountainside about 2 miles away. He should call Earth Defense. That was the rule. Any alien contact must be reported immediately, but something made him stop. What if someone was hurt? What if they needed help right now? By the time Earth Defense got here, it might be too late. Do-hyun ran back inside and grabbed his emergency kit. He threw in medical supplies, tools, and a portable scanner. He jumped into his small transport vehicle and drove toward the crash site. The road was rough and his vehicle bounced over rocks and dirt. His hands gripped the wheel tight. When he got close, he had to stop. The crash had made a huge hole in the ground. Pieces of metal were everywhere. Some were still glowing red from the heat. The ship was not like anything humans made. It was beautiful even in its broken state. The metal had strange patterns on it, and parts of it seemed to glow with a soft blue light. Do-hyun climbed carefully over the broken pieces. Smoke made his eyes water. He called out, but nobody answered. Then he saw movement near what looked like the main door of the ship. Someone was trapped under a large piece of metal. He ran closer and stopped. It was an alien. She was tall, taller than any human. Her skin had a soft silver color that seemed to shine even in the dim light. She wore clothes that looked like they were made for someone very important, rich fabric in deep purple and gold. But the clothes were torn now and she was bleeding. The blood was not red like human blood. It was silver and seemed to glow slightly. She was not moving much. Her eyes were closed. Do-hyun could see she was breathing, but each breath looked painful. The metal piece on top of her was heavy. Too heavy for him to lift alone. He looked around quickly. There were bodies nearby. Other aliens wearing what looked like armor. They must have been guards. All of them were dead. This woman was the only survivor he could see. He had to help her. He had to try. Do-hyun found a long piece of metal he could use as a lever. He pushed it under the piece that was trapping her. He pushed down with all his strength. The metal moved a little. He pushed harder. His muscles burned. The metal moved more. Finally, he got it off her. She made a sound, a weak sound, but she did not open her eyes. Do-hyun knelt beside her and opened his medical kit. He did not know alien medicine, but he knew about injuries. He could see where she was hurt. There was a bad cut on her side, a broken arm, maybe broken ribs. He worked quickly. His hands were shaking, but he made them steady. He used his scanner to check her vital signs. The readings were strange, but he could see patterns. A heartbeat, but different from human. Breathing, but at a different rate. Temperature higher than human normal. He wrote everything down. Do-hyun cleaned the wound on her side as carefully as he could. The silver blood stopped glowing when it dried. He used his best medical seal on the cut. It was meant for humans, but it seemed to work. The bleeding slowed. He made a splint for her arm using materials from his kit and pieces from the ship. He found what looked like a medical device near one of the dead guards. It was still working, showing lights and symbols he could not read, but it had wires and connectors. He studied it carefully. As an engineer, he could see how it worked. It was a life support system. He connected it to her using his own portable power supply. The device started working. The alien woman's breathing became easier. The tension in her face relaxed a little. Do-hyun felt relief wash over him. She was stable, for now, but he could not leave her here. The night was getting colder and she needed real medical care. He tried to lift her, but she was too heavy. Her species was denser than humans. He would have to bring his vehicle closer. He ran back and carefully drove it as close as he could to where she lay. Then he made a stretcher from materials in the wreck. It took him 20 minutes. Carefully, very carefully, he moved her onto the stretcher. Every movement made him worried he would hurt her more. But finally she was in his vehicle. He covered her with his coat to keep her warm. The life support device was connected to his vehicle's power now. All the readings looked stable. The drive back to the station felt like it took forever. Every bump in the road made him worry. He kept looking back at her to make sure she was still breathing. The silver glow of her skin seemed dimmer now. That worried him. But her breathing was steady. That was good. At the station, he carried her inside and put her on his medical bed. It was just a basic bed for treating minor injuries. Nothing like what she probably needed. But it would have to do. He adjusted all his equipment to monitor her. He used his engineering skills to modify the monitors to read her alien vital signs. For 3 hours he worked. He gave her fluids through an IV, adjusted carefully based on his scanner readings. He kept the room temperature high because her body seemed to need more heat. He watched the monitors constantly, learning what was normal for her and what was dangerous. Finally, around midnight, he sat down in a chair next to the bed. He was exhausted. His body hurt from all the lifting and carrying. His mind was tired from all the thinking and worrying. He looked at the alien woman. She was still unconscious, but she was alive. Her breathing was steady. Her skin had more color now. Do-hyun realized he had not called Earth Defense yet. He should do it. But something made him wait. This woman was important. He could tell from her clothes, from the way the ship looked, from the guards who died protecting her. If he reported this now, Earth Defense would come. They would take over. They might not be gentle with her. He decided to wait. He would keep her safe. He would keep her alive. Tomorrow, when she was more stable, he would call for help. Tonight, she needed him, and he would not let her down. He pulled his chair closer to the bed and settled in for a long night of watching and waiting. Outside, the mountain was quiet. The stars shone bright in the cold sky. Inside the small station, a human engineer sat next to an alien woman keeping watch. He did not know her name. He did not know where she came from. But he knew one thing for certain. He had done the right thing by saving her, and he would do whatever it took to keep her alive. 3 days passed. Do-hyun did not sleep much. He stayed near the alien woman all the time, checking her vital signs, adjusting the medicine, making sure she was comfortable. On the 3rd morning, as the sun came up over the mountains, she opened her eyes. Do-hyun was making coffee when he heard a sound. He turned quickly. She was looking at him. Her eyes were like nothing he had ever seen. They were silver like her blood, but they had depth to them. They seemed to see everything. He felt like she was looking into his mind. He walked slowly to the bed, holding his hands where she could see them. He did not want to scare her. She watched him come closer. She tried to sit up, but pain crossed her face. She lay back down. Do-hyun held up his hand to tell her to stay still. The woman spoke. The words were beautiful, but made no sense to him. They sounded like music and wind and something else he could not name. He shook his head to show he did not understand. She looked frustrated. Then she reached toward a device on her wrist. It was damaged. Do-hyun moved closer and looked at the device. As an engineer, he could see it was some kind of communication tool. He took his tools and carefully started working on it. The woman watched him with those deep silver eyes. He could feel her attention on him. It made him nervous, but he kept working. After 30 minutes, he got the device working again. It made a soft sound. The woman touched it and spoke again. This time, the device spoke in English. The voice was mechanical but clear. She said her name was Varys. Lady Varys. She was a high matriarch of the Velthura people. Do-hyun introduced himself. He told her where she was. He explained about the crash and how he had found her. He told her about saving her life. As he talked, Varys watched him carefully. Her face showed surprise, then confusion, then something that looked like respect. Through the translator, Varys asked him why he helped her. Do-hyun did not understand the question at first. Why would he not help? She was hurt. She needed help. That was reason enough. He said this simply. Varys looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that confused him. She said his mind was strange. Pure. That was the word she used. Pure. Varys explained that her people could read minds. Not words exactly, but feelings and intentions. She had touched his mind while she was unconscious. She had felt his worry for her, his determination to save her, his kindness. She said these things were rare in the galaxy. Most beings helped others because they wanted something back. But Do-hyun helped her just because it was right. This made Do-hyun uncomfortable. He was not special. He was just an engineer who saw someone who needed help. He told her this. Varys made a sound that the translator said was laughter. She said that was exactly what made him special. He did not think he was special. Over the next few hours, they talked more. Varys told him about her people. The Velthara were old, very old. They had been traveling space when humans were still living in caves. They were powerful. They controlled many worlds. They had strict rules about honor and duty. Everything in their culture was about hierarchy and knowing your place. Do-hyun told her about Earth, about humanity. Varys seemed surprised that humans were so young in the galaxy. She had heard of Earth, but her people considered humans to be children, primitive, not important. Do-hyun felt a little hurt by this, but he understood. Humans were new to space travel. They had a lot to learn. Then Varys said something that changed everything. She said that by saving her life, Do-hyun had created a life debt. In Velthara culture, this was very serious, very important. When someone saved a high matriarch, the debt could never be fully repaid. It was one of the highest honors their people had. The debt bound them together forever. Do-hyun tried to refuse. He did not want anything. He did not save her for a reward. But Varys explained that it was not about what he wanted. It was about Velthara law, about honor. The debt existed whether he accepted it or not. She was bound to honor it. Her people were bound to honor it. He had become important to the Velthara, whether he liked it or not. That afternoon, ships arrived. Many ships. First came the Earth Defense Fleet, 5 small warships that surrounded the station. Their commander called on the radio, demanding to know what happened. Do-hyun had finally called them that morning. He knew he could not keep Varys hidden anymore. Then the Velthara ships arrived. They were massive. They made the Earth ships look like toys. 20 huge vessels appeared in the sky. Their weapons were powered up. The Earth Defense Commander sounded scared on the radio. He asked Do-hyun what he had done. The tension was thick in the air. Varys used her translator to contact her fleet. She told them she was safe. She told them about Do-hyun. She said he had saved her life and that she was declaring a life debt. There was silence on the communication channel. Even through the translator, Do-hyun could hear the shock in the voices that responded. A Velthara commander said they would come down to get her. Varys agreed but added something. She said that Do-hyun was under her personal protection now. Any harm to him would be considered harm to her. The Velthara commander agreed immediately. The Earth Defense Commander still sounded confused. Varys looked at Do-hyun. She said she had to return to her people. But this was not goodbye. The life debt meant they would meet again. She would make sure of that. She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was warm. Warmer than human skin. She said something in her own language that the translator did not translate. But Do-hyun felt the meaning anyway. Thank you, the Velthara came to get her. They were soldiers, tall and silver like Varys. They wore armor that looked like it was made from liquid metal. They treated Do-hyun with respect. One of them bowed to him. Actually bowed. Do-hyun felt very strange about this. They carried Varys carefully to their ship. She never took her eyes off Do-hyun. Just before she went inside, she spoke again through the translator. She said he would hear from her soon. She said the life debt would be honored properly. She said his name would be known throughout the Velthara consortium. Then she was gone and the door of the ship closed. The Velthara ships left slowly. The Earth Defense ships stayed. The commander came down to the station in person. His name was Captain Park. He was older with gray hair and worried eyes. He asked Do-hyun 1,000 questions. What happened? Why did he not call sooner? Did he know what he had done? Do-hyun answered honestly. He just helped someone who was hurt. That was all. Captain Park shook his head. He said Do-hyun had no idea what this meant. The Velthara were one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. A life debt to their high matriarch was not a small thing. This would change everything. For Do-hyun, for Earth, for everyone. 2 weeks later, the message came. It was from the Velthara consortium. It was addressed to Earth's government and to Do-hyun personally. The message said that Lady Varys wanted to honor the life debt formally. There would be a ceremony on Veltharian Prime, the Velthara homeworld. Do-hyun was invited. Actually, invited was the wrong word. He was summoned. Earth's government was excited and scared at the same time. This was the first time humanity had been invited to the Velthara homeworld. It was a huge opportunity, but it was also dangerous. They did not know what the Velthara really wanted. They chose Ambassador Yuna to go with Do-hyun. She was smart and experienced. She had dealt with aliens before. The night before they left, Do-hyun could not sleep. He sat on his porch at the mining station looking at the stars. His life had been simple before. Now everything was different. He was going to an alien world. He was going to meet an entire civilization, all because he helped someone who was hurt. He hoped he had made the right choice. He hoped he would not mess this up. Ambassador Yuna came to see him. She sat down next to him without asking. She looked at the stars too. Then she said something that made him feel better. She said that no matter what happened next, he had already done something amazing. He had shown the galaxy that humans had good hearts, that they would help others without asking for anything back. That was worth more than any treaty or trade deal. That was worth everything. The journey to Veltharian Prime took 3 days in the Velthara transport ship. Do-hyun spent most of that time staring out the window at space. He had seen pictures of space travel before, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. The stars were so bright, so many of them. The ship moved faster than anything humans had built. It bent space around itself. Do-hyun tried to understand the technology, but it was far beyond anything he knew. Ambassador Yuna spent the time preparing. She read files about Velthara culture. She practiced formal greetings. She warned Do-hyun about things to avoid. Do not touch anyone without permission. Do not look directly at high nobles for too long. Do not speak unless spoken to first. The list went on and on. Do-hyun felt more nervous with each rule. When they arrived at Veltharian Prime, Do-hyun forgot all his nervousness. The planet was beautiful. It looked like a giant silver pearl floating in space. The cities glowed with soft light. He could see massive structures from orbit. Buildings that reached into the sky like mountains. Ships moved around the planet like a river of stars. They landed at the capital city. The name translated to something like City of Light. Do-hyun believed it. Everything glowed. The buildings were made of materials that caught the light and made it dance. The Velthara themselves seemed to glow too, with their silver skin and bright eyes. Walking through the streets felt like walking through a dream. They were taken to a palace. It was not like human palaces. This one was carved from a single crystal mountain. The walls were transparent in some places, solid in others. Light moved through the crystal in patterns that changed as Do-hyun watched. The Velthara guide told them this palace was 10,000 years old. 10,000 years. Humans had not even invented writing 10,000 years ago. The ceremony was the next day. Do-hyun wore formal clothes that Earth had provided. They felt uncomfortable, too tight around the neck. Ambassador Yuna wore a traditional Korean dress. She looked confident and ready. Do-hyun wished he felt the same way. His stomach felt like it was full of rocks. The Grand Hall of Ancestors was massive. Thousands of Velthara filled the room. They all wore formal clothes in rich colors. Purple, gold, silver, deep blue. They stood in perfect rows. When Do-hyun and Ambassador Yuna entered, everyone turned to look at them. The silence was complete. Do-hyun could hear his own heartbeat. At the far end of the hall on a raised platform sat the Matriarch Council, 12 of the most powerful Velthara in the galaxy. And in the center, fully recovered and looking like a queen, was Lady Varys. She stood as they approached. Everyone in the hall bowed. Do-hyun and Yuna bowed too. Varys spoke. Her voice filled the hall without needing any device to make it louder. She told the story of the crash. She told them about Do-hyun finding her, saving her, staying with her for 3 days without knowing if help would come. She described his kindness, his skill, his pure intention. As she spoke, Do-hyun felt his face getting hot. He was not used to this kind of attention. Then Varys called him forward. Do-hyun walked up the steps to the platform. His legs felt weak. Varys smiled at him. It was the first time he had seen her smile. It made her face look kind. She held out a small box. Inside was a crystal shaped like a star. It glowed with soft blue light. She pinned it to his chest. The Star of Life. The highest honor a Velthara could give to someone who was not Velthara. The hall erupted in sound. The Velthara made a humming noise that must have been their version of applause. Do-hyun stood there not knowing what to do. He bowed again. That seemed to be the right thing. The humming got louder. He had done it. The ceremony was over. He could relax now, but Varys held up her hand. The hall went silent again. She said there was more. The life debt required more than a medal. It required a gesture that truly showed the depth of her gratitude. Do-hyun felt worried. What more could there be? He glanced at Ambassador Yuna. She looked worried too. Varys spoke again. She said that to honor the life debt properly, she was doing something that had not been done in 1,000 years. She was transferring guardianship of her youngest daughter to Do-hyun. A young woman stepped forward from behind the council seats. She was smaller than the other Velthara, younger with the same silver skin and deep eyes. She looked scared. Do-hyun's jaw literally fell open. He stood there with his mouth hanging open like a fool. Guardianship? Of a Velthara princess? This could not be real. This had to be a mistake. He looked at Varys. She was completely serious. The young woman, Lady Nari, walked slowly toward him. Every eye in the hall was on them. Varys explained what guardianship meant. Do-hyun would be responsible for Nari until she reached full maturity at age 25. He would protect her, guide her, teach her. She would live with him on Earth, learn from human culture, learn from him personally. It was a gesture of profound trust. The Velthara considered their young to be precious beyond measure. To give one to an alien showed how much Varys trusted him. Do-hyun tried to speak. His mouth moved, but no words came out. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward quickly and bowed. She said that Earth was honored, that Do-hyun was honored, that they would care for Lady Nari as if she were their own. Do-hyun was still trying to process what was happening. A daughter? He was supposed to take care of an alien princess? Nari stood in front of him now. She was tall. Even young, she was taller than him. But she looked vulnerable. Her eyes showed fear and uncertainty. Do-hyun's shock began to fade. This was not about politics or honor. This was about a young person who was scared. He knew what that felt like. Something happened then. Something Do-hyun did not expect. Varys touched his mind. He felt it like a warm hand on his thoughts. It did not hurt. It felt gentle. She sent him an image. Nari as a small child, laughing and playing. Then Nari as she grew older, the laughter fading, her face becoming serious and strained. Then came words, clear in his mind. Be gentle with her. She has known only duty. Perhaps you can teach her what it means to choose kindness freely. Do-hyun understood then. This was not just about honor or debt. This was a mother asking for help. Varys was powerful. She ruled billions. But she could not give her daughter what Do-hyun could give. Freedom to be herself. Freedom to make mistakes. Freedom to learn kindness by seeing it, not by being commanded to perform it. He bowed to Varys. Then he turned to Nari and bowed to her too. He said in simple words that the translators carried through the hall, that he would do his best, that he would be honored to help her, that she would be safe with him. Nari's eyes widened. Nobody had ever talked to her like that before. Like she was a person, not a title. The ceremony ended with more formal speeches. Treaties were signed between Earth and the Velthara Consortium, trade agreements, cultural exchange programs. But Do-hyun barely heard any of it. He kept looking at Nari. She stood straight and formal the way she had been trained, but her hands were shaking slightly. She was terrified. After the ceremony, there was a formal dinner. Do-hyun sat at a table with Velthara nobles who asked him questions about Earth. He answered as best he could. But his mind was somewhere else. Across the room, Nari sat with her mother and other members of the royal family. She looked small among them, lost. That night, Varys came to see him privately. She brought Nari with her. The three of them sat in a quiet room with no guards or advisors. Varys spoke honestly. She said Nari had been raised under strict rules. She had been trained to be perfect. But Varys worried that her daughter had never learned to be happy. She hoped that living with Do-hyun, away from the pressure of the royal court, Nari might find herself. Do-hyun asked Nari if this was what she wanted. It was the first time anyone had asked her that. She looked shocked. Then she looked at her mother. Varys nodded, giving her permission to speak freely. Nari said she was scared. She did not know humans. She did not know Earth. But she also said she was tired. Tired of trying to be perfect. If her mother trusted Do-hyun, then she would trust him too. They left for Earth 2 days later. Nari came with them, along with 3 Velthara guards and 2 advisors. The ship was full of her belongings. Clothes, books, devices Do-hyun did not recognize. Ambassador Yuna spent the trip planning. She said they would need a bigger house, security, diplomatic staff. Earth's government was already preparing. Do-hyun sat with Nari during the journey. She was quiet. She stared out the window at space like he had done on the way there. He asked her what she was thinking. She said she was thinking about freedom. She had heard that humans valued freedom very much. She wanted to know what it felt like. Do-hyun smiled. He said she would find out soon enough. Earth was not perfect, but it was a good place to figure out who you wanted to be. The house in Seoul was big, much bigger than Do-hyun needed. Earth's government had provided it. 3 floors, a garden, high walls for security. Nari got the entire 2nd floor for her quarters. The Velthera advisors had made sure everything was set up for her. Special lighting, air filters, temperature controls, everything to make her comfortable. But Nari did not look comfortable. She stood in the middle of her room, surrounded by her belongings, looking lost. Do-hyun watched from the doorway. He did not know what to say. How do you welcome an alien princess to your home? How do you make her feel better when you barely know her? The first week was hard. Nari barely left her room. When she did, she moved like a ghost through the house, silent, careful. She spoke only when spoken to. She ate alone. She studied alone. The Velthera advisors said this was normal. She needed time to adjust. But Do-hyun worried. This was not living. This was just existing. Earth's gravity was different, lighter than Veltharian prime. Nari moved carefully like she was afraid she might float away. The sunlight was too bright for her eyes. She wore special glasses whenever she went outside. The noise of the city bothered her too. Not the sound noise, the mental noise. Millions of human minds thinking and feeling all around her. She had to learn to filter it out. Do-hyun tried to help. He showed her how things worked in the house. The kitchen, the entertainment system, the garden. She listened politely and thanked him formally. But there was a wall between them. She treated him like a teacher or a guard, not like someone who cared about her. One morning, Do-hyun found Nari in the kitchen very early. She was standing by the window looking at the sunrise. She looked tired. He asked if she was okay. She said she could not sleep. The bed was too soft. The room was too quiet. Everything was wrong. Her voice cracked when she said it. It was the first real emotion he had heard from her. Do-hyun made a decision. He said forget the schedule the advisors had made. Forget the formal lessons. Today they would just be 2 people getting to know each other. Nari looked surprised. She asked if that was allowed. Do-hyun laughed. He said on Earth people did not need permission to be friends. Nari did not know what to say to that. He made breakfast. Nothing fancy, just eggs and toast. But he made it himself. Nari watched him cook. She had never seen anyone important cook their own food before. On Veltharian Prime, servants did everything. She asked if he liked cooking. Do-hyun said he found it relaxing. Making something with your hands was satisfying. She should try it sometime. The food was different from what Nari usually ate. The Velthera diet was mostly plants and certain minerals. But Do-hyun had studied Velthera biology. He knew what was safe. He had modified the recipe. Nari took a small bite, then another. She said it was good, different but good. Do-hyun smiled. It was the first time she had smiled back. After breakfast, they went for a walk. Just around the garden at first. Nari was nervous about going outside. Too many people, too many minds. But the garden was private, quiet, she could handle it. They walked slowly. Do-hyun pointed out the different plants. He told her their names and where they came from. Nari listened. She asked questions. Real questions, not formal ones. The next day, Do-hyun took her to the city. Just for a short trip. To a market. Nari wore her special glasses and a hood to hide her silver hair. She looked nervous. But she stayed close to Do-hyun and followed him through the crowds. The market was full of sounds and smells and colors. Nari's eyes went wide. She had never seen anything like it. Do-hyun bought her street food. Tteokbokki, spicy rice cakes. He warned her it might be too spicy. But Nari wanted to try. She took a bite and her eyes watered. But she did not stop eating. She said it hurt, but in a good way. Do-hyun laughed. He said that was very human, enjoying something even though it hurt a little. They went to a museum the next week. Then a park. then a bookstore. Slowly, Nari started to relax. She talked more. She laughed sometimes. Not loud laughs, quiet ones, but real. She started asking about human culture, about history, about art, why humans made so much art, why they told so many stories. Do-hyun answered as best he could. He said humans needed stories. They helped people understand themselves and each other. Do-hyun introduced Nari to his sister Sora. Sora was a medical student. Young and friendly and curious, she was not scared of Nari. She treated her like a normal person. She asked about Velthara medicine, about biology, about what it was like growing up on another planet. Nari had never had a conversation like that before. Just two young people talking. She liked it. Sora came to visit often after that. Sometimes she brought her medical books. Nari was fascinated. She shared what she knew about Velthara biology. Sora took notes like crazy. They spent hours comparing the two species, finding similarities and differences. Do-hyun watched them talk and felt happy. Nari was making a friend. A real friend, but it was not all good days. Some days were hard. Nari would wake up sad, missing home, missing her mother, missing the familiar things. On those days, Do-hyun did not try to cheer her up. He just sat with her. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat in silence. He let her feel what she felt. He did not tell her to be strong or to smile. He just let her be sad. One night, 3 months after she arrived, Nari came to find Do-hyun. It was late. He was in his study working on some reports. She knocked softly on the door. He told her to come in. She stood in the doorway looking small and uncertain. She asked if he had a moment. He said of course. Always. Nari sat down. She did not speak for a long time. Do-hyun waited. Finally, she started talking. She said she had been thinking about her life on Veltharian Prime. She had been raised to be perfect, to never make mistakes, to always know the right thing to say and do. Every moment of her day had been planned. Every action had been watched and judged. She had no privacy, no freedom, no choice. She said she had been so stressed all the time, trying to be what everyone expected, trying not to disappoint anyone, especially not her mother. She loved her mother, but the pressure was too much. She felt like she was drowning, like she could not breathe, like she was losing herself in all those expectations. Then she said something that made Do-hyun's heart hurt. She said she felt like a failure, that she could not handle what other nobles handled easily, that she was weak. Her voice shook when she said it. Tears ran down her face, silver tears that glowed slightly in the dim light. Do-hyun moved his chair closer. He did not touch her. He knew Velthara did not like unexpected touch, but he leaned forward so she knew he was listening. Really listening. He said she was not a failure. That feeling crushed by impossible expectations did not make someone weak. It made them human. Then he stopped and smiled. It made them Velthara. It made them real. He told her about his own life, about the pressure he had felt. His parents wanted him to be a doctor. His teachers thought he would be a scientist. Everyone had plans for him, but he just wanted to be an engineer, to build things, to fix things, simple things. He said the day he saved her mother, he had been planning to quit his job. He felt like he had failed at everything, failed to be what people wanted him to be, but then he saved Varys, and everything changed. He learned something important that day. The most important thing was not meeting other people's expectations. It was figuring out who you wanted to be, what kind of person you wanted to be, not what kind of princess or noble or engineer, just what kind of person. Someone kind, someone honest, someone who helped others. That was enough. Nari listened. She wiped her tears. She asked if he really believed that. If being a good person was more important than being successful or powerful or perfect. Do-hyun said yes. Absolutely yes. That was the most important thing. Everything else was just details. Something changed in Nari that night. She did not become a different person, but she started to relax, to breathe easier. She stopped trying so hard to be perfect all the time. She made mistakes and laughed about them. She asked silly questions without worrying if they made her sound stupid. She started to be herself, her real self, not the princess she had been trained to be. Just Nari. The Velthara advisors were worried at first. They reported to Lady Varys that Nari was becoming too casual, too relaxed, not acting like a proper noble. But Varys surprised them. She said that was exactly what she wanted. Let Nari be young. Let her make mistakes. Let her learn who she was without the weight of the royal court on her shoulders. The advisors did not understand, but they obeyed. 6 months after arriving on Earth, Nari had changed completely. She smiled easily. She laughed often. She had opinions and shared them. She argued with Do-hyun sometimes about small things, like what to have for dinner or which movie to watch. He loved it. These normal, everyday arguments were proof that she felt safe. Safe enough to disagree, safe enough to be herself. That was worth more than all the formal respect in the galaxy. Not everyone was happy about Nari living on Earth. On Veltharion Prime, a group of nobles led by Lord Kiros spoke against it. They said it was wrong, that a member of the royal family should not live with humans, that humans were too primitive, too dangerous, that Lady Varys was making a mistake. Varys ignored them at first. She trusted her decision. She trusted Do-hyun. But Kiros did not give up. He started spreading rumors. He said Nari was being corrupted by human culture, that she was forgetting her duties, that this was weakening the Velthara. Some nobles started to believe him. The whispers grew louder. Earth security services warned Do-hyun about the situation. Ambassador Yuna came to the house to talk to him. She said there might be trouble, that he should be more careful. Keep Nari inside more. Cancel public appearances. Do-hyun listened, but he was worried. Nari was finally happy, finally free. He did not want to trap her inside again. He talked to Nari about it. She was scared, but she tried not to show it. She said she knew there were nobles who did not like her being on Earth, but she did not want to hide. She was tired of living in fear, tired of letting others control her life. Do-hyun understood, but he made her promise to be careful, to stay close to her guards when they went out. 6 months after Nari arrived on Earth, Seoul hosted a cultural festival. Music, food, performances from all over the world. Even some alien species who had embassies on Earth participated. It was a big event. Thousands of people would attend. The Velthara advisors said Nari should not go. Too many people. Too hard to secure. But Nari wanted to go. She had never been to a festival before. Do-hyun talked to the security chief. They made a plan. Nari would go, but with heavy security. The Velthara guards would be there. Human security forces, too. They would stay in secure areas. Leave before dark. It would be safe. The chief promised. Nothing would happen. The festival was amazing. Music filled the air. Smells of food from 100 different cultures mixed together. Colors everywhere. Nari loved it. She tried different foods, watched performers. She even laughed at a human comedian even though she did not understand all the jokes. Do-hyun watched her and felt happy. This was what she needed. This was living. The attack came in the late afternoon. The festival was crowded. Thousands of people moving in all directions. Perfect for what the attackers planned. They were not Velthara. They were Krathen, aliens known for being warriors for hire. Big, strong, covered in thick skin like armor. 8 of them moved through the crowd toward where Nari and Do-hyun stood. The Velthara guards noticed them first. They moved to block the Krathen. But the Krathen were ready. They had weapons. Advanced weapons that disabled the Velthara guards' armor. The guards fought hard, but they were overwhelmed. People started screaming, running. The festival turned into chaos in seconds. Do-hyun grabbed Nari's arm and pulled her behind a food stall. He had no weapons, no training, but he had worked at this festival site during its construction. He knew the layout. He knew where the control systems were. He pulled out his portable terminal and connected to the festival's power grid. 2 Krathen came around the stall. They were huge, twice as tall as Do-hyun. They had guns that hummed with energy. One of them said something in a language Do-hyun did not know. But the meaning was clear. Move away from the girl. Do-hyun did not move. He put himself between them and Nari. The Krathen raised his gun. Do-hyun did the only thing he could think of. He triggered an overload in the power grid. The electromagnetic pulse burst out from the control station. All the electronic systems in the area shut down, including the Krathen weapons. The guns went dead in their hands, but the Krathen did not need guns. They were strong enough without them. One of them rushed forward. Do-hyun tried to dodge, but the Krathen was too fast. A massive hand grabbed him and threw him aside. He hit a wall hard. Pain exploded through his body. He tasted blood, but he got up. He had to protect Nari. The Krathen moved toward Nari. She backed away, her eyes wide with fear. Do-hyun ran at the Krathen. It was stupid, suicidal, but he did it anyway. He jumped on the alien's back. The Krathen roared and spun around, trying to throw him off. Do-hyun held on. He hit the Krathen's head over and over. His hands hurt, but he did not stop. The other Krathen grabbed Do-hyun and pulled him off. Then it hit him, hard. Do-hyun felt ribs crack. He fell to the ground. Blood ran down his face. Everything hurt, but he tried to get up again. He had to. Nari needed him. The Krathen raised its fist to hit him again. This blow would probably kill him. Do-hyun knew it. But he did not close his eyes. He would not give up. The blow never came. Something happened. The air around them got thick, heavy, like the pressure before a storm. The Krathen stopped moving. Both of them. They looked confused, scared. Then they screamed and fell to the ground, holding their heads. Nari stood behind them. Her eyes were glowing, bright silver light that was almost painful to look at. Her hands were raised. Power rolled off her in waves. Do-hyun could feel it, like electricity in the air, like a weight pressing down on everything. This was her telepathic ability, but stronger than anything he had imagined. All around the festival grounds, the other Krathen attackers fell. They dropped their weapons and screamed. Nari was hitting them with pure mental force. Do-hyun could not imagine the pain they felt. The Velthara guards who had been losing the fight looked shocked. They had never seen power like this. Not from someone so young. Human security forces arrived then. They secured the Krathen, who were no longer a threat. They were unconscious or crying. Nari finally lowered her hands. The glow faded from her eyes. She looked at Do-hyun on the ground. Her face changed. The power vanished. She was just Nari again, a scared young woman who had almost lost someone important to her. She ran to him and dropped to her knees. She touched his face carefully. Her hands were shaking. She said his name over and over. Asked if he was okay. Do-hyun tried to smile. He said he was fine. It was a lie. He could barely breathe. Everything hurt. But he was alive. She was safe. That was what mattered. The medical teams came. Human and Velthara doctors working together. They stabilized Do-hyun at the scene and then took him to the hospital. Nari refused to leave his side. She rode in the ambulance with him. She held his hand. She did not care that it was not proper behavior for a Velthara noble. She did not care what anyone thought. She just wanted him to be okay. Do-hyun spent 3 days in the hospital. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, concussion. The doctor said he was lucky to be alive. A Krathen hit could kill most humans, but Do-hyun had a thick skull apparently. That was what the doctor said. It made Do-hyun laugh even though it hurt. Nari stayed in the hospital the whole time. She slept in a chair next to his bed. Zora came and tried to make her go home and rest. But Nari refused. She said she owed him her life. He had put himself between her and danger. He had been willing to die for her. The least she could do was stay with him while he healed. The Velthara doctors used their advanced medicine to help him heal faster. They said his body responded well to the treatment. Within a week he could walk again. The pain was mostly gone. He felt weak but alive, better than he had any right to feel after fighting Krathen. The investigation found that Lord Kairos had hired the Krathen. He wanted to kidnap Nari, make it look like Earth could not protect her, force her to return to Veltharian Prime. Then he would have power over her and her mother. It was a political move that almost got people killed. Varys was furious. She had Kairos arrested immediately, charged with treason, with attempted murder of a royal. With betraying the Velthara people, Varys herself came to Earth. She arrived 3 days after the attack. She came to the hospital. She thanked the human doctors. Then she went to Do-hyun's room. She stood there for a long moment, just looking at him. Then she bowed. Lady Varys, High Matriarch of the Velthara, bowed to a human engineer lying in a hospital bed. She said he had saved her daughter's life, just as he had saved hers. She said she had chosen well when she gave Nari into his care. He was exactly the kind of person she had hoped he would be. Brave, selfless, kind. The life debt was no longer just about honor. It was about true respect, true friendship. Then Varys talked to Nari privately. Mother and daughter sat in the hospital garden. They talked for hours. Varys told Nari that she had done something amazing during the attack. She had used her telepathic power in ways that took most Velthara decades to learn. The fear for Dohyun had unlocked something in her. True power that came from real emotion, not from training or duty. Varys said she had always known Nari was powerful, but Nari had been holding back, afraid to show her true strength. Afraid it would not be enough. Afraid she would fail. But now she had let go of that fear. She had acted from her heart, from her love for someone who mattered to her. That was real strength. That was what Varys had hoped Dohyun would teach her. To act from the heart, not from duty. When Dohyun finally came home from the hospital, there was a party waiting. Sora had organized it. Just small. Just friends. Human and Velthara, people who cared about him. They ate and talked and laughed. Nari stayed close to Dohyun the whole time. She was different now. More confident, stronger, but also softer. More open. The attack had changed both of them. Made them family in a way that went beyond any formal guardianship. Life changed after the attack. Security got tighter, but somehow everything felt more relaxed. Nari was not hiding anymore. She had shown her power. She had shown she could protect herself and others. The fear was gone. In its place was confidence. Real confidence, not the fake kind she had learned as a princess. She started training with Earth's Telepathic Research Division. Humans had telepaths too, not many, and not as powerful as the Velthara. But they existed. Nari worked with them, learning to control her abilities better. She also taught them, shared Velthara techniques, showed them new ways to use their gifts. She was good at teaching, patient and kind. She had learned that from Dohyun. One of the human telepaths was a young man named Jinwoo. He was quiet and serious. He had struggled his whole life with his telepathic gift. It was hard for him to control. He felt everyone's emotions all the time. It was exhausting. But Nari taught him how to build mental shields, how to filter what he felt, how to find peace in his own mind. Jinwoo was grateful. They became good friends. Nari also started teaching at the new Interspecies Academy in Geneva. The academy was created to help humans and aliens learn about each other, to build understanding. Nari taught Velthara philosophy and culture. She worked alongside human professors like Professor Hyunwoo, who taught alien languages. They made a good team. The students loved Nari. She was not like other alien teachers. She was friendly, approachable, real. Dohyun's life changed too. He could not go back to being just an engineer at a mining station. Earth's government asked him to be a diplomatic advisor. They said his practical approach was valuable. He could solve problems that traditional diplomats could not. He did not think of himself as a diplomat. But he tried. He worked with Ambassador Yuna on several important negotiations, trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, treaties with alien species. He was good at it. Not because he knew political tricks, but because he treated everyone with respect. He listened. He found common ground. He looked for solutions that helped everyone, not just one side. Other diplomats were impressed. They asked him for advice. They wanted to know his secrets. He told them there were no secrets. Just treat people like people. Care about them. That was all. Nari and Dohyun settled into a comfortable routine. They ate breakfast together every morning, talked about their days, made plans for the weekend. Sometimes Sora joined them. Sometimes Jinwoo came over. The house that had felt too big and empty became a home, full of laughter and conversation and life. The Velthara advisors were still there, but they faded into the background. They understood their place now. They were there to help, not to control. News of what was happening on Earth spread throughout the Velthara consortium. Young Velthara heard about Nari, how she was living freely, learning, growing, making her own choices. Some of them wanted the same thing. They started questioning the old ways, the strict rules, the rigid hierarchy. Why should birth determine everything? Why could they not choose their own paths? A reform movement began on Veltharian Prime, young nobles speaking out, asking for change. It was small at first, just whispers. But it grew. The older nobles tried to shut it down, but they could not. The young Velthara pointed to Nari as an example. Look at what she had become. Strong, confident, happy, all because she was given freedom, all because someone believed in her. Lady Varys watched this happen with quiet satisfaction. She had hoped for this. When she sent Nari to live with Do-hyun, she was not just helping her daughter. She was planting a seed, showing her people that there was another way, a better way. Now that seed was growing, she supported the reform movement carefully. She could not push too hard or the old nobles would fight back, but she could encourage, guide, help it grow. 3 years passed. 3 good years. Nari had grown so much. She was not the scared young woman who arrived on Earth anymore. She was strong, capable. She knew who she was, what she believed, what she wanted. She had real friends, real experiences. She had lived, not just existed. And she was happy, truly happy. But there was a shadow growing, a date approaching. Nari would turn 25 in 6 months. According to Velthara law, that was full maturity. The guardianship would end. She would need to return to Veltharian Prime, take up her duties as a royal, join the Matriarch Council, help govern the consortium. It was her birthright, her responsibility. Neither Nari nor Do-hyun talked about it. They avoided the subject, pretended it was not happening. But it was there, always in the back of their minds. The knowledge that this was temporary, that it would end, that they would be separated. The thought hurt too much to face. So they did not face it. They just tried to enjoy the time they had left. Sora noticed. She saw how they both got quiet sometimes, how they looked sad when they thought no one was watching. She tried to talk to Nari about it, asked what would happen when the guardianship ended. Nari said she did not know, that she tried not to think about it, but Sora could see the fear in her eyes. Nari was terrified of going back, terrified of losing this life she had built, this family she had found. Jinwoo talked to Do-hyun about it. He said Do-hyun seemed sad lately. Do-hyun admitted he was worried. He had raised Nari. Well, not raised exactly. She was already an adult when she came. But he had guided her, watched her grow, helped her become who she was meant to be. She felt like family now, like a daughter or a sister. The thought of her leaving hurt. But he knew he could not ask her to stay. She had duties, responsibilities, a whole civilization waiting for her. 5 months before her 25th birthday, the message came from the Matriarch Council, a formal summons. Nari was to return to Veltharian Prime in 6 months to begin her transition to full royal duties. The message listed everything she would need to do: join the council, oversee several colonial territories, begin negotiations for a political marriage. The list went on and on. Each item felt like a weight pressing down on her. Nari read the message 3 times. Then she put it down and walked out to the garden. Do-hyun found her there an hour later. She was sitting on a bench staring at nothing. He sat down next to her, did not say anything, just sat there. Finally, Nari spoke. She said she did not want to go back, that she was scared of becoming that person again. The perfect princess with no feelings, no choices, no life. Do-hyun felt his heart break a little. He wanted to tell her to stay, that she did not have to go, that she could build her life here on Earth. But he knew that was selfish. She had responsibilities, people depending on her. He said he understood, that he would miss her, but that she would be okay. She was strong now. She would not lose herself. She would remember what she learned here, remember who she was. Nari looked at him with tears in her eyes. She said she did not know if she was strong enough, that the pressure on Veltharian Prime was so much, that everyone would expect her to be perfect again, that they would not understand the person she had become. They would try to change her back, make her fit into their idea of what a royal should be. She was afraid she would not be able to resist, that she would lose herself again. They sat in silence for a long time. The sun set slowly over Seoul. The garden lights came on automatically. Inside the house, they could hear Sora talking on the phone, normal life continuing. But out here in the garden, everything felt like it was ending. The good years were almost over. The real world was calling. And they both knew they could not run from it forever. That night, Nari did something she had never done before. She asked if she could sleep on the couch in Do-hyun's study, not in his room, just nearby. She said she did not want to be alone. She needed to know someone was there. Do-hyun understood. He said, of course. He brought her blankets and pillows, made her comfortable. Then he sat in his chair with a book, not really reading, just being there, like she needed. Around midnight, Nari spoke into the darkness. She said thank you for everything, for saving her mother, for taking care of her, for teaching her what it meant to be free, for showing her kindness without expecting anything back, for being the family she never had. Her voice cracked on the last words. Do-hyun felt tears in his own eyes. He said he was the one who should say thank you. She had changed his life too, made it better, made it mean something. He was proud of her. So proud. The next morning, they both pretended everything was normal. They ate breakfast, talked about their day, made plans for the weekend. But something had changed. They had acknowledged what was coming, acknowledged how much it hurt. And somehow, that made it a little easier to bear. They still had 5 months. They would make them count, make memories that would last, make sure that when the time came to say goodbye, they would have no regrets. Over the next few weeks, they did things they had always wanted to do but never made time for. They traveled to different countries, saw famous places, met interesting people. They went to concerts and museums and festivals. They laughed and talked and enjoyed every moment. They were making a lifetime of memories in just a few months. And if sometimes they were both a little too cheerful, a little too determined to have fun, well, no one mentioned it. Everyone understood. This was borrowed time, and they were going to use every second. The message came 3 months before Nari's birthday. Official, formal, from the Matriarch Council. She had to return to Veltharion Prime immediately to begin preparations. There were ceremonies to plan, duties to learn, political marriages to negotiate. The council was not asking. They were telling. This was her duty, her obligation. She had to come home now. Nari read the message and felt something inside her break. 3 months early. They wanted her 3 months early. She had so little time left with Do-hyun and Sora and Jinwoo, with Earth, with the life she loved. And now even that was being taken away. She wanted to scream, to refuse, but she could not. She was Velthara. She had duties. She had always known this day would come. She went to find Do-hyun. He was in the garden reading. He looked up when she approached and saw her face. He knew immediately that something was wrong. She showed him the message. He read it slowly. His expression did not change, but she could feel his sadness. She could feel it like a physical thing. Her telepathy had grown strong. Sometimes it was a curse. She felt everyone's pain. That night, they sat on the balcony overlooking Seoul. The city lights sparkled like stars. It was beautiful, peaceful. They had sat here many times over the past 3 years, talking about everything and nothing. Now they sat in silence, both of them thinking about what came next, both of them not wanting to say it out loud. Finally, Do-hyun spoke. He said he was proud of her, that she had grown into an amazing person, strong and kind and wise. The Velthara were lucky to have her. She would do great things, make important decisions, help her people. She was ready for this. He believed in her. His voice was steady, but Nari heard the sadness underneath. Nari said she did not want to go back, that she wanted to stay here, on Earth with him, with her friends. This was home now, more than Veltharion Prime ever was. She felt free here, happy, real. She did not want to put on the mask again, become the perfect princess. She wanted to be herself, just Nari, not Lady Nari of the royal house, Just Nari Dohyun listened. Then he said something she did not expect. He said she did not have to choose between being herself and fulfilling her duties. She could be both. She was strong enough now. Smart enough. The time on Earth had not made her weak. It had made her strong. Strong enough to stand up for herself. Strong enough to demand change. Strong enough to create her own path. He reminded her of something she once told him about Velthara philosophy. That true honor came from choosing your path with full understanding of consequences, not from blindly following rules. She had a choice. She could go back and be what they expected, or she could go back and be herself, show them a different way, the way she had learned here. It would be hard, but she could do it. He believed in her. Nari sat with those words for a long time. Days turned into weeks. She thought about what she wanted, what her people needed, what she could offer. She talked to Sora, to Jinwoo, to Ambassador Yuna, to her Velthara advisors. She talked to her mother through long-distance communication. Everyone had opinions. Everyone had advice. But the choice was hers. Only hers. One morning, 2 weeks before she was supposed to leave, Nari woke up knowing what she wanted to do. The answer had been there all along. She just needed time to see it. She spent the day writing, creating a formal proposal. When she was done, she showed it to Dohyun. He read it carefully. Then he smiled. It was a big smile. A proud smile. He said it was perfect. It was exactly right. Nari sent the proposal to the Matriarch Council. She proposed creating a new position, Ambassador of Cultural Exchange. She would return to Veltharian Prime, but not to stay permanently. She would split her time between her homeworld and Earth. She would serve as a bridge between the two civilizations, help them understand each other, learn from each other, grow together. She argued that the Velthara needed to change, to learn from younger species, to be less rigid, less hierarchical. The galaxy was changing. If the Velthara did not change with it, they would be left behind. Her time on Earth had taught her valuable lessons, lessons that could help her people. She wanted to share those lessons, to help the Velthara grow. The council response took 3 days. 3 very long days. Nari was nervous. They might reject her proposal completely. They might be angry that she dared to suggest changing traditions. They might force her to come home and never leave again. She tried not to think about it. But it was hard. This was her future. Everything depended on their answer. The response came from Lady Varys personally. Nari opened it with shaking hands. Dohyun sat next to her, ready to support her no matter what it said. Nari read the message once, then again. Then she started crying. Happy tears, tears of relief and joy. The council had approved her proposal. Not just approved, embraced it. They saw the wisdom in her words. They agreed that change was needed, but there was more. Varys had written a personal message at the end. She said she was proud of Nari, that this was what she had hoped for when she sent her to live with Dohyun. She wanted Nari to find her own strength, her own voice, her own path. Varys had been working behind the scenes to support the reform movement, to prepare the council for change. Nari's proposal was the catalyst they needed. The proof that change could work. Varys wrote that she had always known Nari was special, powerful in ways that went beyond telepathy, but that power had been buried under fear and duty. Dohyun had helped Nari find it, had given her the freedom to become who she was meant to be. The life debt was paid, more than paid. Dohyun had given the Velthara something priceless, a glimpse of a better future, and it started with one brave young woman who dared to choose her own path. The next 2 weeks were busy, preparing for the ceremony on Veltharian Prime, packing, organizing, saying temporary goodbyes to friends, because it was temporary now. Nari would come back. She would split her time between worlds. She would not lose this life she had built. She would not lose her family. It was the best possible outcome. Better than she had dared to hope. The ceremony on Veltharian Prime was magnificent. Thousands attended. Nari stood before the Matriarch Council and formally accepted her new role. She looked different from the scared young woman who had left 3 years ago. She stood tall, confident. Her voice was strong and clear. She spoke about the future, about cooperation between species, about learning from each other, about choosing change over tradition when change was needed. Dohyun attended as an honored guest. He brought a delegation from Earth, Ambassador Yuna, Sora, Jinwoo, Professor Hyunwoo, others who had become important in Nari's life. They stood together and watched as Nari became not just a princess but a leader, a voice for change, a bridge between worlds. It was beautiful to see. When it was time for speeches, Nari surprised everyone. She called Do-hyun to the platform. He came reluctantly. He did not like being the center of attention. But Nari insisted. She spoke about what he had taught her. About kindness. About freedom. About choosing to be good not because you had to, but because you wanted to. She said he had saved her, not from the crash, from a life without meaning, without joy, without herself. She declared that while the formal guardianship had ended, she would always consider him family. Her mentor, her friend, her father in all the ways that mattered. The audience was silent. Then they made that humming sound, the Velthera version of applause. It grew louder and louder until the whole hall vibrated with it. Do-hyun felt tears on his face. He was not ashamed. This was worth crying about. 5 years passed. The Human-Velthera alliance grew stronger. Trade increased. Cultural exchanges became common. The Interspecies Academy expanded. More species joined. More students came. The galaxy started to see humanity differently, not as children, as partners, as friends. It started because one human engineer saved an alien life, and continued because a young Velthara woman chose to build bridges instead of walls. Nari kept her promise. She split her time between worlds. 3 months on Veltharian Prime handling her duties. 3 months on Earth teaching and learning. She helped negotiate treaties, solved disputes, built understanding. She was good at it. Really good. Other species started requesting her as a mediator. She became known throughout the galaxy, not as a princess, as a peacemaker, but she always came home to Earth, to the house in Seoul, to Do-hyun and Sora and Jinwoo. They had dinner together, talked about their lives, laughed about silly things. It was normal, comfortable, family. That was what mattered, not titles or power or prestige, just people who cared about each other, people who chose to be family. Do-hyun continued his work as a diplomatic advisor. He traveled with Nari sometimes, helped with negotiations, offered his unique perspective. But mostly he stayed on Earth. He liked it there. He had his garden, his books, his sister nearby. His life was simple but full. He had done something important, changed the galaxy in a small way, but he never let it go to his head. He was still just Do-hyun, an engineer who helped people when they needed it. Eventually, they built something new. A station in orbit around Earth. A neutral place where species could meet, learn, train. It became the center for interspecies diplomacy. Nari and Do-hyun co-directed it. They taught classes, mentored young diplomats, helped solve problems. The station was called Harmony. Simple name, but it fit. That was what they were building. Harmony between different peoples,